Christmas stockings are just big socks, and we already have the pattern for socks. We just need to make it bigger in order to make Christmas stockings. This is another installment in my beginner series working with the lk-150 beginner knitting machine. If you need a refresher for how to make flatbed socks, I have a tutorial for that that's linked below. Today I'm going to be working with Tam Nordic acrylic yarn, and I'll link to where I find this online. You buy it by the pound, so it's pretty good. And I have already swatched for this project. This is at the loosest tension, and it's a little loose for me. And this is at tension 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And that's a little better. That's more what I want. So the lk-150 doesn't do any patterning, so I'm going to knit a plain stocking and then add embellishments to it later. And please bear with me because this is a knitting channel. This is not an embroidery channel. I'm going to do my best. But the body of the stocking is going to be red, and then the heel and the toe and the cuff are going to be white. So let me show you how we're going to knit this. Okay, the first thing we need to do is get the gauge of our swatch. So this is tension 1 to 7. Try to remember that. And then I'm going to measure a 2-inch square in the middle of the stockinette, somewhere where it won't curl. 1, 2, 3, 9, so that's going to be 4.5 stitches. And then 1, 2, 3, 12 rows, so that'll be 6 rows. And then I pulled some dimensions of a stocking from the internet, and according to those, for a standard size stocking, foot circumference is going to be 12 inches. And then length is 5 inches, and I think that excludes the heel. And then the leg length, let's call that the cuff, is going to be 8 inches. I think the foot length that it gives me is going to be, because that does not sound right. This is 5 inches. I think that's just without the toe and without the heel. So if we're gonna make this part 8 inches long, let me draw the stocking. This makes more sense. So let's see, we have cuff down to heel, short rows, and then foot, and then we'll shape the toe. And this is short rows here. This is short rows there, and then we have short rows there. And then we'll have a folded hem up here. So if this, I think it wants this distance to be 8 inches. This is why I don't work with other people's patterns, because they don't make any sense. And then I think just this distance here, they want to be 5 inches. And then the circumference is 12 inches. So that part makes sense. So that the foot's gonna be about 6 inches. Half of 12 is 6, so this foot's going to be about 12 inches, and then we want this to be more than 5 inches. Let's call that 8 inches? 8 inches there, and then 8 inches there, and then 6 inches around. Yeah, we'll call that 8 inches. And then 8 inches for the cuff. So for my pattern, and this is the single bed sock pattern, here on my phone, because my laptop is not cooperating right now. And foot circumference is 12, foot length, we're gonna go 8 inches. Stitches per inch, we have 4.5, and then rows per inch, we have 6. Now this makes an ankle sock, and with like a 1-inch hem on the top, and I want more than that because I want to do some embroidery. So normally it's only 1 inch. Is 2 inches going to be enough? 2 inches is going to be plenty. So I'm going to start writing out my pattern. So we're going to cast on 48 stitches, and then we're going to knit. I want 2 inches, and it's going to be folded cuff, so that's going to be 4 inches. So 4 times 6. Hey Google, 4 times 6.
4 times 6 is 24.
24 rows, and then fold. And then we keep knitting, and this whole thing needs to be 8 inches. So we already have 2 inches for the cuff, so we need 6 more inches. Hey Google, 6 times 6.
6 times 6 is 36.
So we're gonna knit 36 more rows, and then we're gonna start shaping the heel. 24 stitches and hold, and then 6 on each side. And then we knit the foot. The foot is 19 rows, and we'll see how that feel about that when we get to there. And then we shape the toe, which is the same 6 needles and a hold on each side. I'm gonna change that. So 36 rows is 6 inches. It's gonna be shorter than that. Let's call it 24 rows. And then we shape the toe. Okay, so here's my sock. I know it doesn't look like much, but we're gonna cast on 48 stitches onto waste yarn, knit 24 rows, and do the folded hem all in white. That's in white. And then we're gonna knit 36 rows in red, and then we're gonna put half the needles into hold, and then shape the heel with short rows, and I'm gonna do that in white again. And then we're gonna knit the foot, also in red, and then we're gonna shape the toe with the same short row cadence here, only in white as well. So it winds up with like that, and all of these spots are red, and these are white. Okay, let's pull out the machine. I'm cast on for the beginning of the sock, and I'm going tension 7, and then we start knitting. And I forgot to reset my row counter, so let me do that now. And I want to knit 48 stitches. No, I want to knit 24 rows. And this is a folded hem, so all the weights come off. And then we start rehanging stitches. Then this one, and then the twisty one. Okay. Weights go back on. That looks like that loop didn't get on there all the way. The camera's in the way. Okay, let's try this again. There we go. And the second one, and then we're gonna cut the white yarn and switch to red. So I'm gonna leave a tail so that I can sew it up later. And in comes the red yarn. All right, we're gonna tuck this out of the way so it's not causing any problems. And then we're gonna reset the row counter because we are gonna knit 36 rows. Red goes into the feeder. I'm just gonna hold it. Dang it, my comb's coming off. This always happens. All right, it's time to start shaping the heel. So I'm gonna put half of these into hold. Then we just set the levers on the carriage correctly. The front ones go back to position 1, both sides. And then we're gonna pull the red out of the carriage, but we're not gonna cut it. We're just gonna tuck it alongside next to the machine like we did when we were making stripes. And then we feed the white into the carriage, and then we can start doing short rows. So that comes out, and then we knit 1 row. And then we wrap the last needle. And I'm gonna move the claw weights over. And we'll bring another one out. We wrap the last needle, and another one, knit, wrap, hold, knit, wrap, hold. All of the needles that I need to be in hold are currently in hold, so it's time to start going back. And the claw weights need to move up periodically. And then I'm going to cut the white yarn because we're not going to need it for a while. But I'm going to leave a tail long enough to sew in later. And then red comes back from where it was tucked behind the carriage. Like this is still connected to the sock over here. And then these get pushed back in just a little bit. And we're going to knit 24 rows. So let me reset the row counter. That's it for the foot of the sock. So we're going to shape the toe the same way we shaped the heel. Everybody in hold. I'm cutting the red this time because we don't need it anymore. And then feeding white into the carriage, and we start the short row process all over again. Ah, crap. I forgot to put one in the hole over here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna unknit, push that one out into hold, and then wrap it before going back. I just finished the toe of the sock here, and if I were knitting a sock to wear, I would knit one more row and have this tail wind up in the middle so it's easier to seam later, but this is not something I'm gonna be wearing, so I don't really care about the tails. So I'm gonna leave it as it is and cut a long tail so that I can Kitchener stitch this later. I'm going to Kitchener stitch the top of the toe in white, but I want to do the side seam in red because it matches what we've got going on here. So now this whole thing comes off on waist yarn. So we're going to push the hold needle back a little bit, put the waist yarn in the carriage, hold it down here, and just knit. And pull down and off the machine. And there we have a Christmas stocking. Oh, it goes this way. There we go. It's just time to seam it up now. And now we Kitchener stitch. So this is the working yarn over here. So I'm just gonna secure it in one of the loops from the other side. The twisty one, sure. And then we go in and out, in and out. And in and out. In and out. And you don't want to pull this too tightly because it's supposed to look like just another row of knitting. And I've always found this much easier to do on waist yarn on a machine knit piece than it is anything I've done by hand. Oh, the waist yarn comes off. Ta-da! I'll be back when it is sewn up. Oh, I dropped a stitch on the edge over here and I just put a yarn marker in it and I'm gonna incorporate it into the side seam when I do that. So, pretty easy. Here is my assembled stocking. Wait, hold on. There we go. There we go, fully sewn up. It hasn't been washed and blocked yet, so it's still a little wonky, but we'll get to that. I want to do the embellishment on it first. And these have a seam down the side. The seam's gonna be in the back, so when it's hanging up, it'll be this. I know for sure I want to put my name on it, so I'm gonna put Impel across the top. Not quite sure how yet, either a chain stitch or like a back stitch. I'm not an embroidery person, but we're gonna do our best. And then maybe like some snowflakes on the body of the sock. So I found a fabric marking pen that seems to work okay on this, and I'm just gonna draw out what I want my text to be. We're just gonna go with my name, which is Impel. I don't know if this is gonna show up on camera. IMPL. That's not centered. Hmm. Uh. Can I get rid of it? Yeah, I can. Let's put the I here. And the P. And the L. That's a little more centered. And then I'm just gonna take a strand of the red yarn and do a back stitch. I don't know what I'm doing. Now you gotta start in the middle to do a back stitch. I could just go through both. You know what? You know what? We're doing a chain stitch. We have the electric tool, and I'm just gonna go through both layers and chain stitch across with my working yarn here. So you come all the way through. I'm gonna manually close the latch. Can I go the other way? I don't know what I'm doing. Okay. Let's say I want to do that. So I'm gonna pull a loop through. I really should have done more research and put more thought into this before I started it, but that's what happens with last minute videos. Okay, I have a loop and I'm just gonna go. I could do this with a duplicate stitch, but I'm not gonna, because that requires math and more thinking than I want to do. Okay, that's doing something. That's a chain stitch. And then how do I secure it? Do I just pull it through? Okay, well, I want one more. And then I assume that I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna cut it. And then I'm gonna pull it all the way through. And then I'm gonna use tapestry needle to feed it through the other side. Okay, that looks like something. I'm gonna do a little more of this off camera and then see if I can show you a more reasonable thing. Here we go. I did figure it out, and this is not the neatest writing, but that's okay because this is a new skill for me. And you can tell what it says, right? Imple. And we're not going to talk about the back. I'm going to have to weave these ends in at some points. But I was going to add a little more embellishment, but I kind of like the simplicity of this. I think it'll stand out nicely. So I'm going to go ahead and weave the ends in, and then I'm going to wash this because this is a tam yarn, and tam yarns are coated so that they will go more easily through the machine. And then I'll show you how it looks at the end. So it is kind of like wrinkly around the toe and the heel, and I'm going to see how it looks when it comes out of the wash. But I suspect I will need to steam block this, and I'll show you all how to do that if I decide to. So here we go. Wait, real quick before I block this, I want to add a loop so I can easily hang this up on my mantle, and we're going to do that with I-cord. Let me show you how to do that on the machine. To knit I-cord, we need to knit in one direction and slip in the other, and to do that on this particular carriage, we need to move that lever up. So we're going to need 3 stitches. And with the carriage in its current configuration, the stitches will knit in both directions. But if we move this lever to the upper position, it won't knit in this direction, and it will knit in this direction. I have cast on 3 stitches with an E-wrap cast on, and I'm going to slip in one direction, which is slipper up, and knit in the other. Knit, and then we've slipped. I'm working at a slightly tighter tension because this long float is going to get distributed amongst the other 3 stitches when we take it off the machine. We're going to call that long enough, so I'm going to take the weight off, and then I'm going to pull the yarn out of the carriage, and then cut a tail. Doesn't need to be too long. And then feed this onto a tapestry needle, and thread the needle through each stitch. And here we have I-cord. This is a way of knitting a tube without knitting in the round. And as you can see, the float has been distributed across all the stitches. And it's this nice round loop that we're going to sew to the top of the stocking. And here we go. I have sewn the loop onto the top of the stocking. And now I can hang this on my mantle. Okay, it's time to wash this, and then we'll see about steam blocking. My stocking is done in the wash, but it's still a little wonky, especially in the toe and the heel. So I'm going to pin it out on blocking boards and then steam it with my iron in exactly the shape I want it to be when it's done. Here is my stocking after steam blocking, and I'm happy with this. The heel and the toe are no longer wonky. It is ready to be hung on the mantle to be filled with, I'm assuming, chocolate, candy, toys, whatever else goes with stockings. I hope you found this tutorial useful. Let me know if there are any other beginner projects you want to see made on the lk-150. Thanks for watching. Happy knitting!